Hello, Feuzion. My name is Alex Fuse, the host of Fusion News. We have another big guest for you right now. I'm on the phone with Curt Schilling, former Boston Red Sox pitcher and host of the Curt Schilling podcast. Curt, the last time the Yankees and the Red Sox played in the playoffs was 2004. When you were a part of that team, what do you remember most about that series?
Well, I think it'd be easier to tell you what I forgot. I've forgotten anything about that series. That was, I think the 2004 coming back down 3-0 was kind of that was the series with which we exercised the curse, I guess. Mm-hmm. We won the World Series 4-0, but that series pretty much defined the year, the team, the season, and all the memories.
Mm-hmm. Does it still surprise you that 2004, that series between the Red Sox and the Yankees, is still the most talked about comebacks in all of sports history?
No. I mean, when you think about how we did it and who it was, I mean, you're talking about one of all of sports, not just baseball, but all of sports, one of the greatest rivalries in history. You've got over a century's worth of history. You've got, a lot of bad blood over a lot of years, and the fact that, we were down 3-0. And to come back and beat them down 3-0 was just special. And I don't think I've told people since then, I root for the Red Sox to win the World Series, but when they won in 2013, I was kind of conflicted because I was thinking to myself, I wonder how people are going to look at 2004, and I come to realize that 2004 will never change. Mm-hmm. 2004 will always be 2004, no matter what anybody does.
Mm-hmm. When the Yankees were over the Red Sox 3-0, what was going through your mind?
Game 4, honestly. Mm-hmm. If you remember, after that game, Terry Francona's press conference, they said to him, what do you tell your guys? He said, well, I'm not going to tell them anything. They're going to come out tomorrow and they're going to play it. They're going to bust their ass. Mm-hmm. And it was really comforting, relaxing to hear that approach, in the sense that that's all we had to do was think about tomorrow. And we really did narrow down our focus to not winning 4 games or 3 or 2 or 1 game or a full game. We focused on the half inning we were playing, and we did that for the next 8 games.
Mm-hmm. When I think of the 2004 series between the Yankees and the Red Sox in the playoffs, I always think of Game 6. And how did you prepare yourself for that game differently from maybe another start you have passed in your history, in your career in baseball?
Well, nothing I did to get ready for Game 6 was related to anything I'd ever done before, because I'd never been in that situation. I would tell you that Game 6 was one of the seminal moments in my relationship with God. My faith absolutely was an enormous part of that. It was one of the first times in my life I ever really experienced kind of peace, true peace. I mean, I can tell you right now, once I got out on the mound to start the game, I was probably the calmest guy on the planet, because I had prayed not for a win or to get more runs or anything like that. I just wanted to compete. And after what I did in Game 1, I felt like, let's be honest, Alex, the Red Sox brought me here for that exact series. They brought me here to beat the Yankees.
Right.
And I failed miserably in Game 1, so Game 6 was a chance, and it worked out.
Mm-hmm. Curt, let me ask you this. This is a fan question, and I hear this all the time, and it drives me nuts. But how many times have you been asked since Game 6 if the blood in your sock was real?
Well, here's the thing. A lot of people have said, talked about it. But I don't think anybody that's actually played sports or anybody that's actually thought about it could think that. I mean, the level of things that would have to happen for that to happen are off the charts. First off, I was concentrating on pitching a game. I wasn't worried about anything else. I wasn't thinking about anything else. And to think that I would have had the time, and again, you got to remember, I was pretty much on camera for every ounce of every inning. So, there was no ability to, and I've got the 9-inch scar to prove it. So I don't worry about it in that sense. I don't talk about it because my teammates know what I did, and the doctor knows what he did, and everybody that I cared about knew what was going on. So that I was fine. I'm fine with it And I usually find that generally the people that say that are Yankee fans. So that makes me feel even better.
Well, you bring up the Yankees, and I remember our last interview was about 2 years ago. I asked you this. It was during the Fast Five questions. I would ask you one team that you would always want to play for, or if you had the chance, one team you would play for, and you said the Yankees. So if you could get one game to go up back on the mound, who would it be for?
If I got to go back one game and get one game, and pitch one game, I don't know that I would pitch for anybody different. I mean, if you're asking me if I could go back and pitch one game as its own game, or if I could go back and relive one game, that's a different question. But if I could go back and pitch for any team, I think the one that I would want to experience that I never got to experience would be pitching at Yankee Stadium as a Yankee, or at Wrigley Field as a Cub.
Okay. Well, I mean, you might have a shot. You could do the reversal. Maybe this year the Red Sox will have a 2-0 lead against the Yankees, and then you can come out and you can pitch game 3 in New York.
I'm pretty sure I couldn't get you out today, Alex. So.
Well, I mean, you would have a good shot with me, of course. If you could relive one game, what would it be?
If I could relive one game, it would probably be Game 7, 2001.
Okay.
World Series, just because of that whole year was insane. And for that World Series to happen the way it happened, and the season to end the way it did, was one of the most storybook things I've ever been a part of it. Definitely.
Would Game 6 of 2004 be second then?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And you know what? They would probably honestly be tied. I mean, because it's just like when people ask me which World Series was bigger deal to me. They were both big for different reasons. I grew up in Arizona, so that was going home from me.
Right.
And I mean, that, for all that reason, it was special. And then 2004, I made a commitment, I made a promise, and the team kept it. So I was very proud of that one too.
So if the Yankees and the Red Sox face off again in the playoffs, what would your advice be to this Red Sox team?
I'm sorry, Alex, ask that again.
If the Yankees and the Red Sox face off in the playoffs for the first time since 2004 this year, what would your advice be to this Red Sox team?
I don't know if I could give them advice. I think the thing that I'm concerned about is if I'm a Red Sox fan, I need a healthy Chris Sale if I want to go and win a World Series. I don't think they can do that without a healthy Chris Sale, and I'm hoping that happens, because I'd like to see them. It looks like they're going to end up being, second round opponents if the wild card goes to, and the Yankees win the wild card.
Which team are you more concerned about? If you're the Red Sox and it's either Oakland or the Yankees, which team do you not want to face?
I don't care, because if I'm wearing the Red Sox uniform right now, I'm on the best team in baseball. The only team that's going to stop the Red Sox from winning the World Series will be the Red Sox if they don't perform up to speed. Otherwise, I think that they are probably favorites right now.
How concerned are you about this Red Sox bullpen?
You know what? I'm not, because October, when the calendar flips to October, people change, and I'm comfortable enough that to think that they'll figure it out. Number one, and number two, it really honestly depends on who starts and how many innings you get out of your starting rotation. That's the bigger question, because if you can count on going out there and getting 7, then you only have to find guys to get 6 outs. If you've got to find guys to get 9 or 12 outs, then that's a problem.
Definitely. This is my favorite part of the interview. I know we did this last time. Fast 5 quick questions. One batter in modern day baseball would you like to face?
Mike Trout.
Okay. What's your favorite on the road restaurant?
I don't know.
Like a go-to food, maybe.
Well, well, playing out here, I always like to go to California and go to In-N-Out Burger, because we didn't have it. So
right. Favorite ballpark to pitch in?
Gosh, I don't have one. I have parks I like better than others, and a lot of it had to do with just the day. Philadelphia, the old Veterans Stadium was a sewer, but it was my home park, and I love pitching there. I love pitching at Fenway. I love pitching in Chicago, and I never had one. I just, I probably pitched better in old Olympic Stadium than any place in baseball, and that was a nightmare.
Mm-hmm. What do you miss most about playing baseball, Curt?
I don't miss anything, Alex. Honestly, I don't. I've never. I got to walk away when I wanted to walk away,
mm-hmm.
and I've never regretted it for a second, and I've never missed any of it. I got 22 years. I got experiences that I couldn't even dream of.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my mind, I owe the game a whole lot more than it could ever give me, because I'm very proud of the fact that I was allowed to leave and walk away on my own terms.
Do you have a favorite Terry Francona story?
Well, one of my Terry Francona stories is, so you have to understand, Terry Francona is a sick dude. He's nasty. He's sick as in disgusting. And his favorite thing to do in Boston was he would call you in for a meeting while he was in the bathroom in his office with the door open. And he stank. So that wasn't fun. And he did it all the time.
Oh, man, that's funny. Curt, you have your own podcast now, the Curt Schilling podcast. How did this idea come up for you?
Well, I do a daily podcast it comes out on iTunes every day around noon. It's for Breitbart, and it's very it's aimed at talking about politics and all kinds of things about the real world. And I've been able to have some amazing guests: Dennis Miller, Ann Coulter, Michelle Malkin, you name it. Colonel Alan West, Sheriff James Clark, or Sheriff David Clark. I mean, it's a way for me to kind of keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on in the world my kids are growing up in.
Who would you love to interview on your podcast?
President Trump.
Okay, definitely. What would be your first question to ask him?
How do you stay? How can you trust anybody in given what we know about the administration and the people in it?
Mm-hmm. It's definitely interesting. And Curt, where can the fans listen to the podcast?
Every day around noon, it comes out on iTunes. It's called the Curt Schilling Podcast. I think we're on episode, let me check. We're on episode 67 today. And today was a great one. I had an author, and I had an economic guy to talk about something that's amazing that's going on in California.
Interesting. Well, make sure the Feuzion tunes into that podcast. Last question, Curt. If someone came up, if a 15-year-old kid came up to you and told you that they don't understand baseball and it's boring, what would you tell him?
Well, first of all, I don't know. I've never had anybody do that. I would argue that if baseball is boring, it's just because you're dumb. Baseball is a sport. You have to be very intelligent to understand the game and enjoy the game as well.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I definitely agree. Curt, I want to say thank you again for taking the time to join me on Feuzion News today. And where can the fans follow you on Twitter?
I am at Gehrig38, like Lou Gehrig, Gehrig 38, and I'm on Facebook as well. Always a pleasure to catch up, Alex. Thanks, buddy.
Yes, thank you. Have a great night.
You too, bud.
All right, Feuzion, you just heard it from former Boston Red Sox, Curt Schilling. It's always a pleasure to have Curt on the show and talk some baseball, especially this year because the Yankees and the Red Sox are playing each other right now. The Yankees, of course, are 2-up against the Red Sox in this 3-game series. Then after tonight, there's 3 more games in Fenway before they wrap up the regular season. And then we are off to October playoff baseball. It's going to be very interesting to see how this whole playoff plays off, if you know what I mean, going forward. Thanks again, Feuzion, for listening to this episode of Feuzion News, and I will be seeing you all very soon. Thanks for listening.